This is me, a Flameborn, awoken in the world of Embervale, a realm corrupted by something called the Elixir, leading to war and destruction, leaving in its wake a greater evil, the Shroud, a spreading dark fog that devours all it touches. And that's where we come in. We are the last hope for humanity and the ancients. We have been awoken by the flame, yes, a literal flame, who has asked us to venture out and construct a flame altar for shelter from the dark. So, this is where our adventure begins, out into the beautiful world of Enshrouded. And after a typical tutorial on how the basics work, we have gathered some loot and killed our first few enemies. But also had our first run-in with the Shroud. And when you venture into this fog, this timer comes up. And if this timer hits 0, well, you guessed it. But with that out of the way, the game actually begins. Now we can venture out wherever we wish, with the trusty flame as our guide. And of course, the first thing we do is kill more enemies, finding ourselves a beefy mace in our first chest, which I'm sure we'll use later. But for now, we better get to building that first flame altar, which we obviously get instantly distracted from. Sorry, attention span of a goldfish here, but we do get a nice level up for it, so it's not that bad. But now actually back to base building. First, we need an axe, so we can go gather some wood. Then we can finally put down the flame altar, and the flame takes no time telling us there's other survivors in the area who we need to save. So, another quest. But we need to at least build a basic house first, right? And the survivors can wait. After some resource grinding and some late night monster fighting, we have our first base. I mean, it's not much to look at, but it's okay. We also added a small fire so we can cook up a storm. But no rest for the wicked. We still barely have any items to craft, so straight back out and over to the local ruins to scavenge anything we can find. Finding a few chests with pretty much nothing in, but we do get a bunch of raw materials that we'll need for some of the crafting later. And speaking of crafting, we make a bed, some storage, and some nice new windows. Then decide to knock a huge hole in our wall and put a massive window down, as who needs safety, right? Anyways, now we've sorted out our base, we should probably look towards our first quest, and decide to opt out of the meaty mace from earlier and try out some nice little daggers. Then finally realizing I never actually leveled up earlier, so put our first point into better mining, as I'm sure I'll be doing tons of this in the future. But before heading out, we kit ourselves out with our new homeless armor, whatever good this will do, but we are ready to go. Just one more objective first. We need more spores to get our first game-changing equipment, the grappling hook. And there's one place I know we'll get what we need, in the massive foggy valley next to us. So we jump down and get to work, killing as many as we can, and getting exactly what we're after. And after a swift escape, we're back at home, and now to craft the grappling hook. Then we're ready to get this quest going, heading out and going over the bridge to the new area, with some pretty creepy noises underneath. That was a creepy noise, but we'll ignore that for now. But using our new grappling hook, we swing our way across the bridge, reaching the other side, and also reaching some new enemies too. But they're no match for our trusty daggers. Pushing closer to our quest, just a few more enemies and a few more chests to loot, then there's one enemy standing between us and our other survivor, and he falls like the rest. Then we wake the blacksmith. His name is Oswald, but we need the summoning staff first, so decide to bolt home and summon him there. And after he semi-insults us, we find out that he can craft a lot more gear, including some dubious armor and equipment. But first, we're going to need to stock up on a lot of metal. And luckily, Oswald tells us exactly where we have to look. So we head out again, firstly finding some new material, flint, which is just too satisfying to collect. Then we get introduced to our first higher level enemies, which still, to be honest, weren't too bad. And then also get a quick introduction to a worrying item, the typical explosive barrel. Just got to hope we don't blow ourselves up with this at some point. Carrying on, we spot a building in the distance, but we're pretty close to the metal location, so exploration will have to wait. And of course, the location with the metal has bunches of enemies lurking around, so time to get to work. And after a bunch of fighting and looting, we are gathering a fair bit of resources with an added bonus of a new weapon, the mighty bow, which is very useful for setting off these explosive barrels. And speaking of explosive barrels, I started realizing you could just easily break down objects to get materials. You just have to make sure you don't hit the wrong ones. Oh, I saw it last second. Yep, I knew I'd do that at some point. And after a quick run back, we recover our items, finish off the scavengers, and break down anything we can for more metal. And then discover a lovely feature, the fast travel. Thank God I don't have to run everywhere. Almost like clockwork, Oswald grants us another quest, to go and cleanse the elixir well nearby. So we kit ourselves out with Oswald's new armour and a very useful backpack. We did also try to make the glider, but we need some more shroudwood first, which I imagine will get where we're going. For now, let's go. And it seems like they knew we were coming because there was a bunch of whatever these guys are waiting for us, which ended up pretty messy, but we lived. And after exploring for a bit and getting ambushed by some bugs, we found a tower in the shroud that could actually let us breathe good air for once. But more importantly, we found our target, the elixir well, which we instantly get to work fighting our way through, even encountering some new enemies, but we survive victorious, with the reward of a nice new ring to use. But before we have a chance to look, I realise we forgot completely about the literal ticking clock of death above us. So we bolt to the tower we just found, making it out the shroud by the skin of our teeth. Okay, need to be more vigilant about this next time. And of course, on our way back, we find that there was a checkpoint literally next to where we were that could have saved our lives. Typical. But now to throw on our new swanky ring, giving us an extra 20 health and a +1 to health regen. Nice. Next task, the boss, which surprisingly I completely destroyed. And I got a bunch of new items from, including a new weapon, but for now, we need to deal with the Shroud root, which I imagine is the root of all evil. Get it? The root? Okay, moving on. Which we can't destroy unless we have a felling axe, which I guess is an axe I'll have to get from the blacksmith. So back to base for now, and grabbing the extra resources as we go, which allows us to build the glider. Then it's time to take a little nap because, let's be honest, I think we've earned it. And with the next day, we can start thinking about what's next. Which, to be honest, I would love to be moving our base. I can tell now we're going to have to do a lot of starter quests before we'll be happy to build our permanent base, so this will have to do for now. So first things first, we've got to build Oswald a nice new house, so we can get some blacksmithing done. Which, I'll be honest, started small but might have slowly grown into a 50-minute project, but what can I say? The building in this game is pretty great. But finally, when we finish the blacksmiths, we've got to wait for the charcoal to be done in our nice new kiln. So we might as well waste some time and get some more resources. And it's a good time to test out our new glider, which is also sick. Oh man, this is cool. And for now, our main objective is to collect as much active mycelium as we can, and also some more shroud wood, and head home and hope the charcoal is done, so we can finally build the forge, which it is. And one forge later, and we've plopped it down and put it to work making some metal sheets, which is going to come in handy for a new shield and some better armor. And it's about this time when we finally notice the enhanced equipment section, because of course I'm blind, which allows you to use runes you get from slaying enemies to upgrade your weapons to higher levels. And I'm sure we'll be doing a lot of this in the future. Which brings us to maybe my most embarrassing realization. The shroud root from the other day can just be destroyed by any old axe. And after venturing back to the well and killing the boss again, yeah, I was right. God damn it, I'm an idiot. Come on though, the felling axe just sounds like a fancy version of an axe, right? But with that done, the flame tells us that Embervale can be reclaimed, and that we need to go to flame sanctuaries and flame shrines to do more. So we make some new trousers and our new shield, and after a little chat with Oswald, we have our next quest, to go to one of the massive spires in the distance. And in no time, we are back to the vault where we found Oswald, but we venture past and find our first flame shrine, acquiring a spark. And after scaling the hill to get to the spire, which I don't think's the correct way to do it, hey, it works, we enter the spire, which really is just a few basic puzzles with a few traps thrown in. But we reach the top where we speak to the flame again, telling us these ancient spires can be used as fast travel points all over the world, and will slowly reveal Embervale to us. So our path is laid ahead of us, but it would be rude not to glide off this massive tower, right? Which again, is awesome. But in no time, we're back at home, planning our next task, building some new armor. Well, some of it anyway, because we still can't make gloves or a helmet. Then it's finally time to strengthen the flame, which allows us to build in a larger area.
Are you sure about that?
And all we need is resin, which at this point I had no idea came from certain types of trees, so a wee bit of deforestation later, and we finally have 5 resin. And we finally strengthened the flame, which then told us something about 2 ancient obelisks, but we'll come back to those later. And for now, we level up some more, putting a lot of our points into Constitution, so we have much more health. Then it's time for another outing, and I have my eyes set on that village we saw the other day. So quick trip to the local spire, and let's Batman our way out of here. And after tons of time looting and exploring, we come across this majestic building, and this fella, who doesn't seem to mind us at all, but we have to shatter him apart anyways. And we head on in, searching the crypt beneath the church, finding a nice new staff, if we'll ever use this to be honest, and some of the skeleton's friends. Then also found a full set of noble clothing, which we definitely didn't just take off a corpse. Anyway, after looting the rest of the area, then realizing we have a quest here, something from a note we found in the world talking about buried treasure, which after not much looking at all, we get kind of a shitty ring from it. With the village completely explored, we head back and go to bed. With the next day started, we don't wait around. Yesterday I saw there was an elixir well nearby, so today we're conquering it. And after maybe the most epic entrance we've had so far... Oh, this is cool. This is so cool. We slaughter the locals and dive into the well, fighting off hordes of the enemies, then taking down the shroud room. And with the job done, we loot up and head home, where we enhance our trusty axe and look towards the next quests, awakening another survivor, the Hunter. And after a quick TP to the spire and a nice glide down, we're closing in on the vault, but do get distracted by a flint mine, and it would be rude not to get some mining in, which turns out to be very useful for getting materials and getting a lot of XP, allowing us to level up to level 4. Where we add our point into purification, which gives us shroud time back after defeating enemies, which is going to come in very useful. Then our 2 other points go into strength to increase our melee damage. Nice. But with our backpack stocked with flint, we carry on, finding another flame shrine on the way, and as the night falls, we bump into a full squad of shroud men. Yep, I'm calling them shroud men from now on. But with our new skills, we absolutely destroy them. Then finally coming up to the vault, we do get a little bit confused when we bump into Yogi Bear here, which isn't too friendly, but luckily for me, he isn't very tough either, which also goes for his friends too. But with the new enemies taken care of, we head into the vault, dodging a few traps as usual, and grab our new survivor, the Hunter. But as the sun rises, I think it would be a waste of time just TPing home, especially with all this new land here to explore. So we use the glider to glide into the valley below, finding a camp of goods with a letter from the Queen Jasmina, giving us a new quest to find the Southern Caravan. But we'll have to look into that later. For now, there's one more thing we notice. A big fancy looking door next to the camp. And after investigation, we find out it's a night sanctuary, which can only be entered at night, weirdly enough. So we're definitely coming back here later. For now, we carry on, finding more of our bear friends down the road, which again, don't put up much of a fight. Then finally at the bottom of the hill is an interesting looking tower, which of course has a couple scavengers squatting in it too. But after dispatching them, we loot up the tower, not really finding anything of note, but from the height of the tower decide on our final objective before heading home. And that is a local spire. As lucky for us, it isn't that far away. So a little running later, with a tiny fight with the locals, which by the way are starting to increase in level, we finally arrive at the spire. And after the normal traps and puzzles, we reach the top and acquire another fast travel point, then finally head back home, where the Flame is very happy we rescued the Hunter, and so are we when we find out we can make dried fur, which can then be used to make a bigger backpack, which gives us a whole new row to fill up with more loot, which we are going to instantly put to use right away, with another little excursion. And this time, we decide to head north, to see what we can find. And mid-flight decide to try nibble on a mushroom, giving me a mini heart attack, but also it does lead us accidentally to discover a hidden tomb. And just a little heads up, if you don't like spiders, maybe don't go to these. After a fair bit of pest control later, we finally find the loot from some poor guy's coffin, which is just filled with a bunch of bone blocks. Okay, we are literally just grave robbers now. But after running away from our crime, we actually noticed we have ventured right towards a vault, so might as well rescue the farmer whilst we're at it. Just first, we have the jankiest fight with a pack of wolves, and then find the weirdest little village, populated by rats who just love to... But when looting the final houses, we find something very useful. Well, luckily because the previous owner just wrote down where he hid his treasure. But I don't mind, he's just given me a really nice new axe. But now to the vault, where I completed another set of puzzles with a good sprinkle of traps to get a nice new set of daggers. Oh, and of course to unlock the door to get the farmer. Then did stumble into a fight with some weird plants nearby and almost died to a trap, but we're okay. Now time to go back to base, where the Hunter gives us a quest to go find her handle spindle, so then we can craft some pretty sick looking armor. We've definitely got to do that later. But for now, we use some of the items we've gathered to craft our first magic chest, which I thought was just going to have more spaces, but actually acts as a local storage for crafting, which is such a cool way to add this feature in. Then onto a good batch of cooking and a little rest before another day, where we head out again, and this time we're heading for another survivor, but get a little sidetracked exploring the local shroud, giving some good loot and XP, and finding some extra weird things. Yeah, I don't have any idea what this is. What on earth have I just found? But it'd be rude not to loot it, I guess. And that's enough for now. Now to the vault, which doesn't take long, and of course our friends, the scavengers, are here again, which as per usual, wasn't too hard to deal with. And at this point, I'm pretty sure we're over leveled. But even after spending quite a few hours playing at this point, I realised something very painful. I've just been straight up deleting any old gear till now, and I just found out you can salvage them. Oh man, this one hurts. But anyways, we'll cry later. For now, we've got the alchemist. And before we head home, we spot a possible salt mine nearby, which we need to make more dried fur. So quick mining trip later and we're bursting with salt. Then back to base for our congratulations from the flame, and before I completely forget, like I have since I found it, let's go to the night sanctum. But first, let's carry on what I keep doing, grave robbing. Then speedrunning my way to the sanctum, I seemingly forget one of the basic features of the game, stamina. Okay, that's embarrassing. Second try, and we're finally here. But wait, is that a patrol? And is that a wolf with a backpack? Okay, last sidetrack, I promise. We finally enter the sanctum and this looks really cool. But to be honest, it was a little simple. Just another set of dodge the traps, well, or walk straight through them if you're me, and the reward at the end was just a wand. So it's home time, I guess, and about time to salvage what's left of our old equipment and do a little bit of upgrading. Bringing our axe up to level 10, but now I think it's time to do something very important. I've been living in this pretty poor base till now, so time to move on, and I've got a little idea where to. In my head, this cliff right here would make a really sick base location. So for the next few hours, I spent my time getting resources and very slowly building up my little village. And I'll be honest, my base is nothing special, but for me and my little survivors, this is going to be home for now. But that's where we're going to leave it for now. There's going to be a few more Enshrouded videos as this game is huge, but hope you guys enjoyed, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.